Hello, it's me, Julian, and this is the moment that you've all been waiting for. We are finally back for another read-along. Here we go. You voted a million years ago, and we are reading the first book in the Zodiac Academy series. It is called The Awakening. However, nobody calls it that. I never see anybody online being like, I'm reading The Awakening. They always say I'm reading the Zodiac Academy, and that's because the Zodiac Academy is huge on the cover, and The Awakening is teeny tiny. I would have reversed it, because if the Zodiac Academy is the name of this series, it, in my mind, should be smaller than the actual title of the book. The title is there on the spine, but we're probably mostly going to be defaulting to calling it the Zodiac Academy, because otherwise nobody's going to know what the fuck we're talking about. If I post critiquing The Awakening, nobody's going to know that's this. I'm probably just gonna read the first chapter today, but I wanted to get us started. Good news, did a little bit of research about the authors, not a ton, but there wasn't a ton to find. There's two authors, Carolyn Peckham and Susan Valenti. I believe they are sisters, but much to my pleasure, they seem to be, you can correct me, fairly unproblematic. It doesn't look like they're harassing any reviewers. It doesn't look like they're up to any weird bullshit. It just looks like they're out here publishing books. They have a huge catalog of books. It definitely seems to me that they are in the rapid release style of self-publishing. There's kind of two styles in self-publishing. Honestly, the one that makes more money is rapid release, but I can't do that. I can't keep up with that. One of the issues with rapid release is you have to not care as much about the quality of your book, because really it's a bit more like fan fiction, and that you're just getting it out there because it has the tropes and it has the vibes that people are looking for, versus being a super high quality book. Which does kind of draw me into, these ladies have put out, best I can tell, quite a few books that are very similar to this. These very genre-y, very tropey, not trying to be exceptional style of books. And that's fine. That is fine. If that's the kind of book that you want to read, if that's the kind of book that you want to put out, more power to you. Have at. This book is not like The Night in Its Moon, trying to pretend that it's some exceptional epic. This book, I'm pretty sure, knows what it is. It is cheesy garbage, which is delicious to eat up like a little raccoon in the middle of the night.
You know, if you can sort of muscle your way past the gag reflex, all kinds of food possibilities open up.
We are still going to be looking at this as though the authors were interested in turning it into a higher quality product. Because that's what we do here on this channel. If you're new, these read-alongs is what we call them. We look at books in depth, chapter by chapter, and we learn what the author is doing well, what the author is doing poorly, and, we snark, we joke, we have fun. It's what we from the 90s call edutainment. But first, let me have a little sip of my chai. Oh, spoilers, Chai is a ferret. I just woke her up. This is Chai. You guys all wanted to see her, no doubt. She is the newest ferret in our little family. Okay, and I'm gonna go put her away because I woke her up and she's very mad at me. If you want to see more of Chai, check out my shorts. I've been making a lot of shorts about her. By the time this video comes out, there's probably, you'll have seen her, but yes. All right, back to what we do around here besides look at adorable ferrets. So not only do we try to learn from these books, but like I said, we do try to snark, and for that reason, we have Bad Book Bingo. Backed by popular demand, it's Bad Book Bingo. Every time I hold up a piece of white paper, my white balance turns yellow. It's great, I love that. Love that for us. Anyway, let's quickly go over what all the bingo squares are, shall we? Square one is, why is it always the dumb bitches? That is my version of Too Dumb to Live, where you wonder how the character is intelligent enough to feed themselves or survive on a day-to-day basis. Number two is the blurb lied. We'll have to read the blurb in a second, and then we can determine whether it lied or not. Next is baffling magic system. Everyone praises the main character. That's a popular one. The main character is just so cool. Awkward language choices. That kind of encompasses both anachronistic language, so language that doesn't fit into the tone of the rest of the piece, and also weird metaphors and similes. We have minority there to serve a straight white main character. The main character is the special TM, which I think we're going to get pretty quickly in this book. Main character suddenly good at a high skill activity, such as sword fighting or horseback riding or archery. Main character behaving badly with no fallout. Well, that just happened. That one's for extreme coincidences, where the plot and the world just arrange themselves around the main character and what they need in any given moment. We saw a lot of that in A Night and Its Moon. Do you think your reader is dumb? That is where the author, grabs the reader by the hand and guides them through simple concepts. Horrifying implications. That one's new. We've been missing horrifying implications for a while. Then there's the free space. Then there is horny. That one's fairly self-explanatory. Messy world building or no world building in sight. Terrible plans. Terrible plans is when either the main character or the villain just have the shittiest plans in the world and you wonder, how did you come up with this? Confusing plot or no plot in sight. I Would Die For You, Person I Just Met, which is a brand of insta-love where people will be together for a week and they will already be willing to sacrifice their lives for each other. Unhinged bullies, paper-thin characters, awkward sex scene, surprise baddie reveal. We've had a couple of those, and also, if there's a character in this book called Celeste, it's all over. If I had a nickel for every time a surprise baddie turned out to be named Celeste, I would have 2 nickels, but it's weird that it's happened twice. Damaging sexual assault tropes, injuries don't matter, and info dump. So those are all of the things on our bingo card, which I'm going to set to the side so it stops making yellow. But now let's read the back, shall we, real quick here? Which I believe is different from what is on the Goodreads, so I wonder if this is an earlier version or whether it's intentionally different from what's on Goodreads. I tend to, with my books, keep the blurb on Goodreads the same as the blurb on the back of the book. But here we go. I am a Gemini. Impulsive, curious, headstrong, a twin, heir to a throne I know nothing about, and it turns out I'm Fae. What happens if you are a twin but not a Gemini? Do you just have to revoke your twin card? Do you have to pretend that you were born in whatever month is Gemini? But of course there's a catch. All I have to do to claim my birthright is to prove that I'm the most powerful supernatural in the whole of Solaria. And sure, technically that's true, as I'm the daughter of the Savage King. Oh my gosh, we already have main character as the special, and we haven't even started reading the book yet. But the bit they didn't put on the brochure was that every single Fae in this kingdom would claim my throne if they could. The biggest problem is the drool-worthy dragon shifter. Oh my god. Who has his eyes on my throne. He and his 3 psycho friends are determined to make my life hell. So I think we're probably going to have unhinged bullies. That'll be fun. This is a bully romance, so I think we're pretty much guaranteed unhinged bullies, but it's still going on the bingo card. All I've got to do is survive, but fate might have other ideas. Damn it, why couldn't I have gotten a letter to Hogwarts? Just put Hogwarts right on the back of your book, why don't ya? Also, this cover, they are self-published, and I'm pretty sure that they used Canva to make this cover, which I actually used to make my latest cover as well. So there's a lot of options for you on Canva if you're an author, but it does look a little bit cheap. Also, biggest complaint is that the back cover copy is really hard to read. The contrast is not strong enough. They needed the words to be brighter, and also, along with the color shifting brick texture, they also have the Gemini star sign on there cluttering up the space. So it's really difficult to read that back cover. So I would have done that differently. They have got a leg up on me in that they have included a map. It does look kind of pixelated though. It's not the best map I've ever seen, so I think they had a little bit maybe of a sizing issue when they went to get this into the book. But I don't know how to, if they publish through Amazon or whatever, I have no idea how to even get a map into my book. This does not seem like the kind of book, the tone of book that needs a map. There are people who insist that every fantasy book needs a map, but no, I don't believe so. But I will say that they have done a very impressive job with the inner formatting. Definitely, I recognize multiple of these items, from Canva. So again, I say if you are a writer looking to create your cover and your art and all of that stuff, Canva is the way to go, apparently. But all right, we have a Gemini, a main character. There's 2 main characters I know, and I know that they switch back and forth POVs, probably each one written by one of the 2 authors. I will say right away that while I do read tarot, I do not believe in astrology or birth signs or any of that stuff. No offense. I think it's kind of silly. It doesn't do anything for me. I don't know. People take it so seriously and at the same time make fun of people for picking other Hogwarts houses. It just seems very silly to me. So I'm sorry if you're like really into that stuff and I make fun of it, but typical Aquarius, am I right? Whatever. So I don't know. Like, if there's gonna be like deep cuts about astrology and whatnot in here, it will go right over my dumb little noggin.
Get on with it.
I think we're ready. We've got our bingo card and we are ready to get on to chapter 1, which is starring Darcy.
That is his good friend, Mr. Darcy.
So let's look at those first lines, shall we? We like to do that. I was halfway through the window when the police sirens sounded. Pause, breathe, wriggle hips. Honestly, I don't hate it. It sets up a tone of a little bit of goofiness right away that I think is a good idea. And it also kind of sets us in the moment right away. Character is halfway through the window and police sirens are sounding, so we get immediately the vibe. So honestly, I like this way better than Isla Crown often fell into puddles of stars, blah, blah, blah. So I do find myself, because I'm dyslexic, probably struggling to read this on this page because there's a design underneath the words and I've had to reread basically every sentence because my eyes just like refuse to understand it because it's too busy. This is probably not a problem that most people have, but it is a struggle. Already we're seeing some awkward sentences. I didn't have to do this, period. Breaking and entering, period. Although technically I wasn't breaking anything. Why is that all like chopped up like that? Why not, I didn't have to do this breaking and entering thing, but technically I wasn't breaking anything. I don't know. Already the sentences feel weird. Yeah, once again, very choppy. My sister was better at this kind of thing, period. But maybe that's why I was here instead of her, period. I wanted to prove I could do it, period. So I was damn well going to, period. So many of these could be sentences in themselves. My sister was way better at this kind of thing, comma, but maybe that's why I was here instead of her, period. I wanted to prove I could do it, so I was damn well going to, period. Like, why is it 4 sentences instead of 2? I don't understand. It's almost like the author, as they were writing this, every time they sort of reached the end of a thought, just put a period there. Oh no, that's hard to read. There's sparkles on the page as well, and some of the sparkles near the bottom are over top of letters. Like, my dyslexic ass cannot read this. Don't have images underneath your words, or some of your readers are not going to be able to read it. Aw, man, I think I took out fat equals evil. Dang it, because we already have it. As she's climbing in this window, she's imagining going to jail and having a cellmate named Patrice who had a gut the size of a beach ball and a menacing gleam in her eyes. So we have a fat equals evil already. And I took it off the bingo card. The punctuation, I don't know. The punctuation in this is just kind of very slapdash. It almost feels like they kind of scattershot punctuated this. I'm trying to read, but it doesn't read smoothly because they just kind of throw commas every which where and periods where there could be commas or periods where there could just be the sentence continues to go. Whoever their editor is could maybe stand to be switched up, like maybe a different editor for them. Or maybe they're just editing themselves, in which case, please look at your punctuation. I kind of have to read to where I feel like punctuation should be and ignore their punctuation to make things flow smoothly. We have waving and waving, 2 sentences apart, and also my butt waving like a flag. I don't know if butts can wave, especially like a flag, because the like a flag makes you think of fabric, so like how is your butt waving like fabric? But also we have ebony hair waving around like a sheet in the next sentence. And some of these phrases, do the youths talk like this? I need to know. I took a moment to internally celebrate what I'd just achieved, rocking my ass to a silent tune. Do kids today rock their ass? So she's breaking into a house and she's kind of freaking out because Pete lives here, but he's supposed to be gone at work. And I just want to say, like, I'm not pointing it out every time, but the prose is already pretty terrible. It's not quite to the level that I remember the Ables being. That was very amateur. Like, clearly this person has written before, but also very clearly this person has not been well edited before. More references to asses. Whoever's writing this chapter is clearly an ass woman, because we keep hearing about asses. Okay, the guy whose house she's breaking into is their previous foster dad. Now, this is not doing the worst. Like, the prose is terrible, the punctuation is random. It's doing a good job of telling us about this character's history without just, like, info dumping it on us. Because we're following her as she is doing something physical that guides us through her history, instead of just being like, my name is Darcy and I used to be a foster kid, but I'm not anymore because I aged out of the system. Suddenly she's fine, she's being super cautious, super uncertain, positive she's gonna be caught, and then she throws caution to the wind and jogs loudly across the room. Her heart bounced with hope. I think I'm gonna have to give this weird language already. Like, what? Bounced with hope? My heart is always bouncing, I know. I'm giving this awkward language choices, and we are on page 9. I hope you all have your bingo cards, because woof. So she goes into their old room, and she goes over to like a little secret hidey hole that they had where they have some cash stored. They weren't able to grab it on their way out. I'm a little bit confused. So our current character, Darcy, she's like, I earned my money by hustling at school. I found stuff that people didn't want and I sold it. Basically selling people's crap back to them at school. But her sister did like something much more illegal, and she came home smelling of gasoline and adrenaline. Oh. In their little brick hole, they have $2,000, enough for 6 months' rent in our apartment. Yeah, she says she's living in a shit heap, but like where I am in Wisconsin right now, even if you're in a shit heap, that probably gets you like 3 months. I think you could kind of tell that these writers are a little bit older for that reason. I'm gonna go ahead and suspect that both of them are probably homeowners at this point. The cops are already doing like an illegal entry, and I don't really know why. Like, she heard the sirens, but she didn't see any cops, and she got in here. So like, why are the cops busting down the door? They went straight to battering rams. They like knocked a few times and then went straight to battering rams, and I don't know why. They also have their guns out, because of course they do. That's actually fairly accurate for American police. Cops don't shoot unarmed teenage girls, do they? In America they do sometimes.
This is America. Don't got you slipping now.
So she's running away, and she's crawling under the fence where the neighbor's dog had dug a hole, and her belt snags on the fence, and all of her money is like pouring out of her pockets. Just things are going badly. Somebody, a male voice, not masculine, male, tells the lady cop who is holding onto the legs of our hero to let her go, and the lady cop does, and so our main character beats feet, but her money is gone. We have got a lot of telling instead of showing, so furious as hell with myself. Rather than telling us this, you can show us that with the way that the character is behaving. Also, we can infer that. You don't need to tell us that. Like, everything that previously happened with her, we were there for. So we would understand why she would be upset, so you don't need to tell us. She lives in Chicago. If you need a tough, rough and tumble city, Chicago. I live in Wisconsin, which is right near Illinois, and I've been to Chicago, and it's like, why is everybody using it in their movies? Like, I mean, granted, I've mostly been there at Chicago with daylight, but it's just like a fucking city. Like, calm down. I'm sorry, but these two authors are definitely doing it. How do you do, fellow kids? They just sound like older people my age, trying to badly write teenagers. She was mentioning that I was stuck with a Nokia from the 90s which did nothing but make calls, as if that was what a phone was for.
How do you do, fellow kids?
The train! The train is here. We have two characters who have bronzed skin, and I don't know what that means. It seems like authors use bronzed skin to kind of run the gamut of like questionably brown characters. Like, what does this actually mean? Or did they just apply a lot of bronzer this morning? Because it's not bronze skin, it's bronzed. I know that in A Night and Its Moon, The author used the fact that I believe she called her character Bronze to be like, all of the racism that I accidentally did isn't real because my character's not actually black. So I just don't know anymore what books mean when they say bronzed skin. Interesting that neither of these girls think about getting a job. I know, I sound like a boomer, but they're all like, how are we gonna make money? Like, first of all, they've got an apartment, so they have a place to live right now. Obviously, they're very worried about rent, but at the moment, they have a place of residence, which puts them one up on a lot of people. So, girls, jobs, like, I know you're panicked and wondering how you're gonna make money, but they don't even bring it up. They don't even say, like, the jobs around here are crappy or don't pay enough or anything. They are not considering employment at all. And like I said, that probably makes me sound like a freaking boomer, but like, if you have a place to live and you want to know how you can keep it and make money, jobs, right? Apparently, though, Tori is still doing whatever illegal thing she was doing before, so they are bringing some money in. Oh no, it's gonna do this every chapter. I didn't realize it was gonna do that. I hate this. I hate this. It makes it so hard for me to read. But yeah, we're gonna be with Tori next and probably find out what things Tori is doing that involve gasoline and adrenaline. I hate it. All right, I'm gonna stop here because I have other stuff to get done tonight, but those are my thoughts on the first chapter. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Do you think that these girls should just hashtag get a job? I'll see you for the next chapter. So hey, now feels like the perfect time to mention that I am also a freelance developmental editor. So if you like what you see here and you feel like you want me to critique your book, now you can have that happen. Don't worry, I'll be nicer to your book. I do offer your first 5K words for only $25 just to see if you like my style, so you really can't lose. And I also offer writerly coaching chat sessions, so check it out. All right, we are back for more Zodiac Academy The Awakening. But we are back for the other of the two sisters. And let's see if I can even read the words on this page because it is so busy and covered in stuff. All right, we're here with Tori. She's got a little bit of a longer chapter. I'm going to assume that the two authors went back and forth. Oh, okay. That's confusing. That's confusing, but an important lesson for us. So it starts out with her saying, spark, comma, I cursed. So that implies that spark is the curse word that she's saying. It's not spark, period, quotation, I cursed. It is spark, comma, quotation, I cursed. But then later we go down and she says spark, come on, and we realize that she's trying to steal a vehicle and she's trying to hotwire it. Punctuation matters. I know there are people who are like, I hate punctuation, why does it matter? These authors probably among them, but punctuation does matter. Punctuation is one of those things where you should learn the rules. You've all heard it a million times, learn the rules before you can break them. Please learn the rules of punctuation. I know it's annoying, I know it's obnoxious, but do make that effort because your reader, even if they don't understand the rules, they do subconsciously. So when you do stuff like this, it makes it confusing to your reader. But good news, this girl is neither selling drugs nor has gotten herself in over her head in the sex work industry. She's stealing cars. Cool. You'd think they'd have a lot more money, actually, if she was stealing cars. I will say I noticed right away the difference. I could pretty much guarantee you now, looking at their two styles, I can notice a difference between the way that these two women write, so I'm pretty sure they are going back and forth with one character each. This one, whichever author this is, does not just throw periods in willy-nilly and does seem to understand that sentences can be longer than like 5 words, which is good. She still doesn't seem to have a handle on punctuation as evidenced by the previous chat we just had, but she's better than her cohort. This is just easier, it flows better, it's easier for my eyes to read. Oh, she's stealing a motorcycle. I'm sorry, she's stealing a motorcycle. Legally distinct from stealing a car, and makes her even more of a badass. She doesn't steal cars, she steals motorcycles. By the way, it's a thunderstorm outside, so if you hear rain pattering and thunder, which sucks because we have to get the horses a new bale of hay later, and we have to roll the round bale out to them in the thunderstorm. Does anyone in real life actually say you there? I really want to know. A security guard spots her and he says, "You there, what do you think you're..." And then he gets cut off by her, like, driving away. But, like, does anyone in the real world ever shout, "You there"? Yeah, I gotta say overall, I like the second author's style a little bit better. It's still not what I would call amazingly written, but it's better. The prose are just better than the previous author. That strikes me as such a weird, awkward thing. Like, I don't write with a partner. I never have and I never will. I have absolutely no desire to write with another person. Some people love it, but it's not for me. And like, what do you do if your partner is just a better writer than you are? Just like fundamentally. Do you hope that you can catch up to them? Because they're gonna keep improving, hopefully, as they go as well. So like, how do you deal with a skill disparity in your partner and you? Probably these girls don't even notice it, but like I notice it. I kind of wish that these girls' chapters were a little bit more connected. So we had the beginning, like we have both of them doing crime and being chased by the police. But we had the beginning with the one sister failing to get the money. And I would like it better if she went home dejected and the other sister was like, well, now I have to go do crime. So like they were connected more. Instead, Tori was already gonna go do this, whether her sister got the money or not. So there's really no connection between the two sort of first chapters, because both of these are kind of a first chapter. And since they have so much in common of both of the girls doing a crime and both of them being chased by the police, I do wish that the authors had worked a little bit harder to connect them and make them flow into each other. Cause and effect rather than just this is what one is doing and this is what the other is doing. We do have to mention that she's kind of a hottie. She's got long hair and feminine curves, but she's hiding them with a big jacket and jeans so that people will think she's a man while she steals this motorcycle. I wonder if the fact that she is like kind of a wild child who loves to ride motorcycles and really wants one of her own is actually going to matter at all to the story. It doesn't have to. Obviously, your characters can be into things that aren't part of the plot, but since it's part of her introduction, and we got several paragraphs of how much she loves it and how much she wishes she could keep the bike, but oh no, she's too poor. I'm really curious and kind of also doubtful that the fact that she loves motorcycles and wants one of her own, I don't think that's going to matter to the rest of the story. I think it's just to make her seem like a badass at the beginning. But she takes the bike after a bit of joyriding and escaping the popo to her fence. The guy who sells the bikes for her, his name is Joey. I'm sure a deeply unimportant character. She is too moral for a biker gang though, because Joey's in a biker gang and she's like, ugh, no, I have no interest in that. So yes to stealing bikes, but she's a loner.
The most powerful wolf is the lone wolf, the rejected one. I'm not a wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm a wolf in wolf's clothing.
Also can't miss that, of course, Joey, a man in his 30s, has tried to hit on her. Here's a good example of something you don't need. Trust your reader. They're haggling over the price. Come on, I know what it's worth. Don't try to screw me over, I said irritably. You don't need the irritably because the words of what she says really indicate tone. So make sure if you're using words like irritably to tell us the tone that you haven't already shown us in the dialogue. Trust your reader to pick that up.
Are you hep to the jive? Can you dig what I'm laying down? I knew that you could. Slide me some skin. So, brother?
He does then mention that this bike is so custom that anyone will be able to tell that it's stolen. Tori keeps being like, I know it's valuable, I know it's rare. So if she knows so much, wouldn't she want to steal a bike that was like a little bit less obvious? Like, okay, she saw the bike and she had to ride it and that's why she stole it. Okay, sure. Shit, I cursed. Again, we don't need I cursed. Shit's doing the job. Trust your reader even in little ways. Like people, I always say trust your reader for big stuff too, but trust your reader for little things as well. Trust them to infer tone. Trust them to pick up what you're putting down even on the sentence level. Again, we gotta reiterate that this character is a stone cold hottie with a detailed description of the outfit that she's wearing underneath the baggy clothes, being sure to mention her big old boobies. This is definitely like female character wish fulfillment here.
It looks like your distributor cap's a little loose.
So he pays her $800 and she doesn't even count it, says so right on the page, even though it feels like that would be something she would do because she was so much like, we need the money, we need this money, need this money. Keep reiterating it. But then she doesn't even count it. And it says that she trusts him with financial things, but I would still count it. And then she goes out the front of his establishment, which is a bar. It seems a little bit risky to me to be running your stolen motorcycle reselling business out of a like separate establishment, but hey, I don't know. What do I know? It's Chicago. So seedy, so crimey. Oh, she drinks tequila at 18 years old. She is like, we are being bludgeoned to death with how hot and badass this girl is. If we were gonna have a movie of this, you know that first shot of her would start with her ass and move up. For this type of book that's not trying to be serious literature, sure, whatever. But like I said, we are gonna treat it as though we are critiquing something that's trying to be a little bit more elevated. So maybe you don't need to hit us so hard with how much of a cartoon she is.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
What a weird way to describe a body. I turned to leave and found my way blocked by a wall of muscular chest wrapped in a crisp white shirt. Again, we have to be reminded she's such a rebel. Kinda hot in a straight-laced way, which wasn't really my bag. Of course not. You know that a girl like this only goes for guys wearing leather jackets with like spiky, messy hair. So this guy with his chest wrapped in a crisp white shirt is like, come here, I need to talk to you. And I think this is going to be, I know a little bit about this book, I think this is going to be like the guy who comes to like get her and take her to the fairyland, which makes me again wish that the very first chapter of this book connected more to anything. And so have Darcy also have a very obvious experience with someone like this, someone weird, someone out of place, so that we can connect these two chapters because right now Darcy's chapter feels really unnecessary and like we should have just started with Tori. I wonder how again, I'm just curious about how working with another author works. How do they decide whose chapter gets to go first? And like, what if the author who wrote Tori thought that her chapter was better, which it is, and should go first instead of Darcy's, but then the girl who wrote Darcy disagreed? Like, how do you work that out? It's difficult enough to even collaborate with somebody for like editing or something. How do you decide between the two of you how to structure your book when both of you might want your chapter to come first or something? Now I want to like interview these two ladies. Also, just like, because this current author's craft is noticeably better than the other, I would have put this chapter first because like as a reader, if I read that first chapter and read how choppy it was and how difficult it was to read and how poor the punctuation was, I might have put the book down and not kept going. Now granted, if I'm picking up a book like this, I'm not expecting super duper quality, so maybe that wouldn't bother me. I'm already expecting fan fiction quality, so that maybe wouldn't bother me, but if this book had put its best foot forward, not an amazing foot, but a better foot forward with the second author's chapter going first, it would probably be better to draw in readers. There's a lot of smirking going on though. So the rich guy is being pushy, but fortunately the other bikers like step in because they feel like protective of Tori, which is good. Like, at least the people in this bar are not just a bunch of grabby assholes being misogynists the whole time. But then she goes outside. Like, if I was her, I would have stayed a bit longer with these guys who were, like, big and protective instead of just going outside where a creepy rich guy could follow me. And, like, you might be going, oh, Julian, you're victim blaming, but I'd like to remind everyone that this is a fictional character, and we can judge the dumb actions of fictional characters all that we want. Okay, good. She's not being as dumb as I thought. She goes to one of the other bikers and asks them for a ride home. And I'm gonna presume that like she knows these guys a little bit. She's friends with some of these guys. I have noticed that this author, her characters do a lot of smirking and smiling, which, not the end of the world. It's noticeable to me. In my writing, I do it too. My characters, like, if I just want to have them doing something with their face, they smile a lot. This author is using smirk and smile sort of interchangeably quite a lot. Know your crutch words and use the search function to get rid of them. And if you're not sure what your crutch words are, your beta readers can help you identify them. Alternately, you can look up common crutch words and like use your search function to at least find those and see if maybe one of them is your crutch word. She leaves behind, she had a helmet for when she was stealing the bike. And like, I get that she leaves behind the men's clothes that she was wearing. It's just a baggy shirt and jeans, which I believe she said she stole from somebody. So like she's not out any money there, but I would keep your helmet. That's like an more expensive item. I love how nondescript these authors are being. Like, we're in Chicago, but they're not describing anything, and not giving any names to streets or locations or anything like that, which tells me that while they are writing about Chicago, they do not live in or possibly have not been to Chicago. We arrived at the outskirts of my less than great neighborhood. Tell us where they are in the city, or make up something. Like, if you don't want to admit that you think some neighborhood is like less than savory, make up a neighborhood that sounds like it could belong in Chicago. Stephen King did that with Maine. Like, Derry is not a real place in Maine, he made it up, but it sounds like it could be. More characters smiling. So she gets home, and we have a sequence that I don't know why it's here. We have a whole sequence with cute biker guy where he asks her for her number, she gives it to him, he tells her his name, and like, I feel very confident that Matt the biker guy is not coming back. So like, why do we have this whole sequence? Is it to prove to us that boys really want to date this girl? Is that what we're doing? I feel like maybe that's what we're doing, because this author is really concerned that you understand that her female lead is very, very desirable. As Matt the biker guy drives away, oh no, there's sexy shirt man, rich guy, waiting outside her house, almost like he magically transported there. If you're looking for ways to slim down your document and get out some unnecessary words, things like my heart thundering in my chest is redundant, you can just say that her heart was thundering. So she's terrified of this guy, which is fair. He did show up at her house and he like grabbed her before. And she's immediately picturing her broken body ending up abandoned in a dumpster. But she's also confident enough to like get a ride home from a biker guy that she barely knows. Is she super confident or isn't she? Like, I get that this is a slightly different situation, but she goes from being fine with jumping on essentially a stranger's bike with no thoughts whatsoever that she could end up in a ditch somewhere, and this guy shows up at her house and she's immediately picturing her murder. I would love to see her mind, instead of going to, oh, he's gonna kill me and I'm gonna end up in a dumpster, going to like, through her strategies for getting rid of guys that she's dealt with before. I would like to see her confidence kind of continue through in this moment, so it's misplaced confidence. Like, this guy is probably gonna kick her ass, but have her think that she can still like deter him. Have her reach into her bag of tricks that she uses for getting rid of unwanted male attention, instead of just immediately going, well, this guy is gonna fuck me up, unlike those other strangers who I was just with. I don't know, is he inside the building? No, he's outside the building. So I'm gonna guess that their apartment building must have external stairs, because I was like, go inside the apartment building and shut like the main doors. The main doors of apartment buildings usually lock. So I'm gonna guess that this must have external stairs, because she's just running up the stairs and he like catches up to her with supernatural speed and slams her against the wall. No, they're in a corridor. So we have completely bypassed the fact that there would be security doors involved anywhere. And I'm like, I feel like maybe these authors have not lived in an apartment building now, I'm suspicious of. Even something throwaway like the security doors never worked, or I tried to get through the security door and he slipped in behind me or something. He uses some kind of persuasion magic. He says his name is Professor Orion and she's going to let him in. Again, we need to know that this character is a badass. Come in, I said sweetly. What the hell? I wasn't sweet. Yeah, we know. You're a badass. We get it. And so she lets him into the room, and that is it for this chapter. And then we're back with Darcy, which is great because I love her writing style so much. Let's see if we can get any of our bingo squares real quick. I think I got rid of She Don't Know She's Beautiful, which also wouldn't apply, because once again we have a character who just is very, like, we are assured that she is hot and we're pretty sure she knows it. Which is interesting. Like, is that the trend now? Like, when I was growing up, the trend was the She Don't Know She's Beautiful. All these girls being like, oh, I'm so plain and ugly, and then their description would just describe them as like incredibly stereotypically good looking. But now, as I'm reading more young adult, I am finding that nowadays it is just, these girls are hot. They're just hot. They know they're hot. We still don't have any normal looking people, it's just that now they know that they're very hot. I don't think we have anything that applies on the bingo card for this chapter, so we'll see what we get for the next chapter. Alright. I've got 30 minutes on this memory card. Can I read a chapter in that short of a time? We'll find out. We are back with Darcy. As you recall, her sister has just let what is probably the Fae into their apartment, which they are paying for with crimes. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's just so cheesy. As she's watching Breaking Bad and taking mental notes about dealing drugs. Neither of these girls has even once considered just a regular job. It is completely outside of their, like, modes of thinking. Is it because they're from Chicago and everyone in Chicago does crimes? Are we trying to say that kids who go through the foster system all turn out to be criminals? I don't know where we're going with this or why neither of these girls, even for 2 seconds, entertain the idea of just, like, getting a normal job. They want us to know that this guy is built, though. That's super important. Just like we must understand that Tori is a stone-cold badass with a body. Again, these writers they write in such a way as they think that the reader is dumb. And again, for a book like this that's not trying to be high art, we're looking for ways that we can get better our own selves. So Darcy is like, oh fuck no, don't bring this guy in here. We only have one bed and you are not going to have sex on it. But then it says, Tori shook her head, her lips pinching together as she gave me a stare that said I had gotten the wrong end of the stick. First of all, the wrong end of the stick is odd being used here, but also, like, you don't need to explain to us what this, like, stare means. We can figure it out. This is another problem that I could see happening with two people writing a book, is that they could over-explain a lot of things because they didn't write every single chapter. So unless they're very carefully going through and looking for places where the other person has already sort of set the tone and set the reader's knowledge, which is really important, so they don't repeat themselves, which I don't think these women did. Like, I'm sure they went through each other's chapters, but I doubt they thought about, like, sort of next level stuff, like what has already been made clear to the reader that I then don't have to make clear in my chapter. Alright, I definitely have to give Do You Think Your Reader Is Dumb, just for just the obviousness of these sentences. And this is acceptable why? I asked in utter confusion. This is acceptable why? Question mark. Is very obviously confusion. You don't need to tell us she asked it because there's a question mark. You don't need to tell us she's confused because obviously. So I'm giving this Do You Think Your Reader Is Dumb already. Heat slammed into my cheeks beneath my defensive facade. Heat slammed into your cheeks? We have already done awkward language choices, but especially this author in particular is really just like, mwah, for those awkward language choices. He calls her Bunny for some reason. Is that going to be like a creepy pet name that he gives her later? She just said above that she was defensive, and then down here it says, I quickly went on the defensive. Well, if you were already on the defensive, you can't go on the defensive again. You were already there. More of the micro level of Do You Think Your Reader Is Dumb. Watch out for repetition. I've seen it before where, like, a character will get up, and then a few paragraphs later get up again. Watch out for having your character repeat motions, repeat emotions that you've already told the reader that the character is having. Okay, she recognizes his voice as one of the cops. This author's writing style is just kind of odd. It reminds me a lot of a teenager just like figuring out their writing style, except for she has written a lot of books, so I think this is just the style that she stuck with, that most people would kind of grow out of. They give him a glass of water. The guy took it with a word of thanks, then tipped it into his mouth. Glug, glug, glug. I watched his throat the whole time. Like, who writes like that? There's this whole sequence where they're giving him a glass of water, and I don't know why it is here. It definitely feels like filler. So the mystery guy has their money from before, and he's now just flopping out on their couch. I don't even know what this means. Like, what are we describing? He says his name is Professor Orion. And she says, there's no way this guy was a professor unless he was some hipster DJ who labeled himself as Professor Dizzy D or something equally lame. But he didn't have the Tool vibe that accompanied that kind of lifestyle choice. Am I just too old to understand this? Because this just doesn't, like, yes, I am reading sentences, But like, what do they actually mean? I just don't get it. Like, what makes him not a tool? What would make him be a tool? Fuck, I don't know. His eyes swung to me. Only now does she start to deeply fear having this stranger in her home when she has already seen this stranger command her sister what to do, and he has flopped down on their couch and he has their money. And like, only now are you getting nervous? He finally decides to use his power on both of them, and it works. We keep getting told over and over that he has a dimple because he's just so hot, and I'm like, can this scene commence? Like, what is he here for? It's been like 3 pages and nothing. He got a glass of water. I thought he was on the couch, but now he's in a chair. So okay. Finally, this guy is going to get down to business. He's like, you are Fae. You come from another world.
You're a wizard, Harry.
He says that they're Gemini, which means they're hot-headed. And like, I do remember somebody else's review of this, somebody who knows about this kind of thing was like, no, Gemini are not hot-headed. So please tell me in the comments. I'm going to be throwing out stuff like this. Like, is this a stereotype for that kind of star sign? And you guys can let me know, because like I said, I do not know about any of that stuff and don't really have any interest in it either. He says their powers have awakened, and I would have loved to see, because we got a scene each with the girls, I would have loved to see proof that their powers had awakened. Like, I would have loved to see a little magical moment with each of them. Got a lot of like one-word expressions going on. He shrugged and I scowled. I would love to see a little bit more description. This is reminding me very much. Somebody said that this is like a knockoff Winx Club, and secretly when I was younger I really liked the Winx Club, so this is reminding me of that, because he's just like, yeah, you're a magical girls, and you have a cool magical girl last name, which is Vega.
We are the Winx, we are the Winx, come join the club, we are the Winx.
And they're going to Solaria, which reminds me very much of Winx Club. Her jaw was gritted. Her jaw was gritted? You mean she gritted her teeth? I don't think jaws can be gritted. Orion proves who he is by dumping out a satchel full of like every single piece of paperwork they've ever had in their entire lives, from birth certificates to like foster care stuff. And that proves it somehow. She calls him a shiny prep guy. But I thought that prep guys were tools, so like, is he a tool or not? I need to understand, this is vital information. So there is old mythology around the Fae and fairy children, that the Fae would swap human babies for fairy children. And there were a lot of reasons for that. One of the ones that I kind of prefer as like a reason is that fairies tend to be kind of inbred and physically weak, and so they want to get human breeding stock in here, because we might not be as long-lived or intelligent, but we're good at surviving. We're sturdy. So they swap out their frail, sickly fairy babies for strong, hardy human babies that will give them better like genetic stock in the future. That's my favorite one. But this one is just they were swapped at birth to protect them. Of course, their real parents are incredibly wealthy, because we got to get every like Harry Potter reference in here. Oh my god. All right. Keep reading. For some reason, Tori just believes him. She's like, wait, you're rich? And then he just coerces them into saying yes, they'll come with him. I don't know why he bothered with this lengthy like chat at all. He could just be like, come with me to the fairy world, and they would have been like, yes, and that's it. Because he's got magic. He's fucking got magic. Also, while the girls think it's weird that they are obeying his commands, they're not really alarmed by it. They're annoyed by it. Like, if somebody was commanding me around my own house and I had no control over it, I wouldn't be like, huh, that's annoying. We're already getting hints that these girls are going to be the special. It's a special double whammy, because we have twins here. And then they essentially just use flu powder, except for without the fire, to teleport them to Fairyland. So they teleport to Fairyland, and it's very green and beautiful, and there's a whole bunch of people there, all their age, just like literally standing around in a circle, apparently waiting for them. But they are joined into the circle, and then apparently they got here just in time for the welcoming ceremony. Feels like my camera's exposure is off today. I don't know why, but I need to hurry up. Okay, it's like the choosing ceremony rolled up with the sorting hat ceremony. It's any one of these kind of stories where you turn out to be the special, you have to go get sorted into your category. And my bet is that these girls are going to be able to feel every element, and then we'll be able to cross off our MC is the special bingo card. And just as I predicted, they are in every house in Hogwarts. But we're gonna say main characters are the special. Where is it? Nobody else has all of these elements. Everybody's staring at them. They're so special. Somebody says something snide about a boyfriend. I don't care. We're walking. And that's it. Like, everyone's supposed to go off to their like houses now, to their rooms or whatever. We'll find out next chapter where these girls are supposed to go, but that's it for my memory card. I just did it just under the wire. So I can't say too much about this chapter except for it had a really slow beginning, and like everything else, like at the end with the choosing ceremony and everything, was like bam, 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 bam. No time for the characters to really think or consider. But they are already all in. They're like, oh, well, I guess if we can feel the elements, that must mean we belong here. And that's just like it. So I'm assuming we're just gonna get right down to them being harassed by everybody in a magical school. And I will see you for the next chapter.
Jimmy!
I'm not Jimmy Jim. He's Jimmy Jim.
Actually, I don't think we have anyone here named Jim. But we do have several patrons. Patrons like Veda, Ingrid, Roma, Pansing Pony, Julius the Nice Dragon, Haley, Sam, Kiara, Kihokaro, Mooney, Maria, Kirsten, Bear, Jojo Bookish, Robin, Ursula, Caitlin, Jessica, KJ, Lafone, Amanda, Unicorn Jenny, Celia, Neon NVM, Alyssa, Rita, Deborah, Afra, Melissa, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Sophia, Merween, Kit, Hidden Glade, Light Julie, Belle, Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Ray, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Rennie, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, and Sarah.
And this is supposed to be a kids' movie.
We are the Winx, come join the club. We are the Winx, we are the